And let's bring on former big league manager and former manager here in Baltimore, Buck Showalter. Buck.
What's up, man? How are y'all today?
Hey, you know what? I'm hanging in. How are you? How was your travels?
Great, except, air travel's become a real – if I don't go direct, I don't go. Let me tell you, Rip, it's you want to get down in society, go through airports. I figured out the airlines that they really don't care what you think. They go, listen, if you don't want the seat, we got 8 people waiting on it. What do you want to do? Mm-hmm. I took the train back and forth to New York.
Yeah.
That's the only way to travel. That's the only way to travel.
It sounds like if we're going to have a grind my gears, usually on Tuesday, for me, it's travel, and it's usually traffic of driving the highway and the parkway. Sounds like for you, airplane travel for you can get you going.
Well, have you noticed how people are traveling in their pajamas now?
I have seen a few, yes.
Okay. What do we got? Chris Bassitt. I said the other day, might be the best sign of the offseason.
Yeah, you called me about that to make sure. And I think, one thing about Bassitt, you said he's got, this is how I paraphrase. He's got some stones. He's not afraid to go out there in big moments, and he's dependable. You had him there. Buck, talk about him as a person and as a player.
Every season has its ups and downs. The thing about Chris, he doesn't let things snowball. If he has a clunker, he's going to be the same guy in the clubhouse the next day. He's not going to blame anybody. He's going to come in and go, let's get after it. He's going to do the drills in spring training like his first day in Little League. He's a good teammate. He's one of my favorite pitchers I've had as far as just bringing everything else. And you saw him in the postseason. The big moment does not sneak up on him. And he's got a talented hand. He can manipulate the ball in the strike zone. He's got these long fingers. He'll shorten up his breaking ball. Now, he's 37 years old. But for the money and the commitment and all the things considered, it might be the best sign of the offseason. I'm not shocked, but I'm surprised that other teams didn't jump on him because he's a guy. He's a guy. He's a pitcher he's a baseball player who happens to be a pitcher. How's that?
I mean, I think that's a great way to describe it. And, if you heard my little talk, Buck, about guys in spring training, you got to find what works for you. And I think in some cases, the perception is you want the shiny toy. You want that piece out there that is the quote-unquote elite because you feel like that's going to put you over the top, which, hey, we know there's only X amount of guys that are considered elite, high-end guys. And I still trying to have people understand Kyle Bradish in Baltimore, I think, is one of those guys, just got to be healthy. But above all, what makes Bassitt so valuable is he's been dependable. And he knows what he has to do to get ready. You've seen so many spring trainings, Buck. I think with a lot of young guys that have proven they're big league players, the hard part for them is trying to replicate how to be ready to do it all over again. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, knowing where the finish line is, like Chris is going to go into the first day and throw about 87 miles an hour. The first thing I did, Rip, I heard y'all talking a little earlier, is I would make sure there were no guns, there were no iPads, and I didn't like a lot of people crowded around the bullpen on their first 2 or 3 outings. Yeah. Let these guys just throw. And, they shouldn't feel like they're being evaluated, because they know where the finish line is, and it's not in February. And people say, well, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about your first couple of outings. Then what happens? There's 20 people standing around the batting cage. Okay, and then there's 15 people watching the spin rates and the drop and all the different stuff. And these guys they're trying to please, and it's a competitive business. Well, I can tell you, Chris Bassitt's going to walk in there and say, boys, put everything away. I'm getting ready for April. Okay, I ain't getting ready for February. Mm-hmm. And he's going to be a great example to all these people, Rip. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it because, for this group, we've talked in the past about having a veteran presence and guys that have kind of been there and understand what it takes. And I mean, for Chris, he's coming off of pitching in the World Series 2, being asked to come out of the pen by any means necessary. Hey, we don't want you to start here, but we need you.
That tells you something about him right there. Yeah. He's got no ego when it comes to that. He's a good team. The other thing I like about him is he laughs easily. He laughs at himself. He loves a good joke. He's a fan of baseball. How's that? He's a fan of competition. You know, I used to listen to him sit down and debate someone that had completely different views than him, and to watch how they would debate on the plane said a lot about Chris. And I don't have enough good things to say about him. You know, he's not going to put number one starter stuff, but on a given night, he will pitch like a number one. On a given night, he will. And if you tell him that he can't beat their number one starter, watch what happens.
I mean, I think just the track record proves it. I think he has one season, if people are going to go from the stats, he's got one season in the last 9 years where his ERA has been higher than a 4.16, which last year his ERA was below $4. That would have put him in the top 30 of qualified starters. You know, and I did the math again. There's 30 total. There's 30 teams in baseball, right? 5 guys in a rotation minimum now. That's a pretty good guy to get for a 1-year deal. You know,
I tell you, he will make you wish at some point that you'd sign him to another year. Put it this way, him and Max Scherzer are closer than thieves. They were bosom buddies there in New York, and they had a lot in common when it came to competing.
With that being said, because I want to ask you about Pete Alonso in a second, because he seems like a competitive dude too. But is there any stories that you can share with Bassitt or Scherzer about that competition in New York?
Well, see, Max wouldn't. Max was serious to a fault. Okay, it was all business, and Chris used to try to tweak him a lot. You know, like, hey, lighten up. What's the movie from Stripes? What's the line from Stripes? Lighten up something. You guys are too young for the movie Stripes with Bill Murray. Mm-hmm. Lighten up Francis. He dropped the lighten up Francis on Max one night. Not good. Not good. You guys remember that movie, that line? It was great. The guy.
I remember that line. I'll admit that I don't know the movie as well, but the actual quote, yes.
Right, lighten up, Francis. You know, but to hear them going back and forth, you know, Scherzer's one of those guys who would walk in the office about 2 days after he pitched. He'd look around, make sure all the analytic people are out there, close the door, sit down and go, "What's up, bitch?" You know? And we'd talk, you know, and Max was great. Max appreciated, and Chris does too, they appreciate bluntness.
Yeah.
They want you to be blunt. They want you to, you know, it's the old thing, you can't handle the truth. Well, they may disagree with you. And I remember we were debating about how you should cover first base on the swinging bunt. And he wanted to argue and debate it, and I enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun with it. Mm-hmm. You know, then the play came up one time in the game, and, you know, and it proved me semi right. And I just looked down at him, he goes, "Shut up," you know.
But you know, that fun interaction, Buck, you mentioned about guys like Bassitt, you know, they enjoy the game. You got to enjoy this process, right, wrong. You got to be able to communicate it. And you got to have that competitive juice too, right? That can drive you to be successful. You know, another guy then on this side, you know, Pete is now in Baltimore. And all Pete has done for his career is essentially play almost each game. He plays 150, 160 games, and he averages 40 jacks and 120 ribbies. That's just what he does. Can you maybe speak a little bit on him as I've seen the competitive side. What do people not know about Pete Alonso, the guy off the field where he's already had so much success on it?
Well, Pete's approachable. He's a good teammate. He loves to play baseball and loves to play every day. Try to get him to DH or take a day off and see what happens. And he's a guy that you can trust with a contract. You know, Pete his whole life has had to kind of prove people wrong, whether it's out of high school, at Florida, where he was drafted, and he couldn't do this, couldn't do that. Believe me, he goes into every season wanting to win a Gold Glove at first base. And he takes a lot of pride in people having confidence in him, his infielders. He collides with the ball 40 to 50 times every year, and it goes places where you can't catch it, okay, where the grass doesn't grow. I don't care. I don't even know where are they moving the fences to this year. It seems like they move them every year and then tell you it was, well, wait, you were wrong last year. Why should we believe you this year if you're moving them again? I don't get that. But it doesn't matter with Pete. You can put him back in Utah Street and he'll take care of them. But it's a good addition. he's a guy that you can go, I got that. And I tell you, if you don't want Pete to steal a base, you better shut him down. He'll take off there too. Likes to run the bases. He's just a big country strong guy. I'm not saying he doesn't condition and work out, but Pete's got those just country strong muscles. He's not, you see him, he just, and he likes, he likes being the guy on the line, and he'll hit good pitching. It's not, a lot of these guys feast on mediocre pitching. Pete will put a swing on a good guy, and boy, no one's got to tell you what his exit velocity is. You can hear it.
Yeah, those are things, Buck, you and I have talked about, right? It's always nice when you can look up and go, wow, the guy hit a ball 115 miles an hour, but you can go, you know what? I didn't need to see that because I just heard this damn thing come off the bat and go whack.
Well, it's like the first time I've got to play golf one time with Tiger Woods, and the ball off his golf club has a different sound. It's a deep thud. Mine's clank, okay? But, you've heard those guys who the ball seems to rattle around on their bat. Pete's got that clean click. John Scope had that clean click. And when you hear it 2 fields over, you know what it is. I remember the first time I heard John Scope do it, I go, who's that guy over there? He said, you guys hear that? And I go, what do you mean? I hear that. I go, you don't hear that sound his bat's making? Bring him over here and I'll show you what well, I didn't need the analytical tool for that. I just needed my ears.
For sure. Zach, I think you have a follow-up with talking about with Pete.
Zach, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Buck?
Good. I'm in Maryland right now.
Really? It's a lot of snow right now. It's melting, but there's still a lot of snow.
Yeah, I've been shoveling it off the back deck for 2 days.
Oh, I did my fair share. You can ask Ryan. I did way too much shoveling over the recent weeks.
Buck, Zach shoveled the wrong area. He helped other people get their cars out, but there wasn't the cars he was supposed to shovel out. You see what I'm saying? I got
you.
I just like to spread the love. I just like to spread the love to everyone. But Buck, you talked about, try having, giving Pete a day off and see what happens. Over the past few years, I think the least amount of games he's played in the last 3-4 years is like 154. How nice is it as a manager to just every single day be able to pencil in for 162 games? Pete Alonso is going to be in your 3 or 4 hole, and he's going to produce, and you can trust him.
Well, one of the most important things GMs do during the offseason is attack the what ifs. Mm-hmm. What if Pete has an injury? What if the shortstop can't play? What if this? You've got to answer those questions because the game doesn't stop. They don't wait for you to catch up till somebody gets healthy. And that's something I thought we did well in Baltimore when I was there. Is we attacked the what ifs really well. You'd like to have the what ifs be in your system, but they're not always there. So you go, the 6-year free agent acquisitions. But Pete is a guy that, that you kind of, I don't want to jinx him, but the guy just has that type of approach and body. And, he's flexible, but he takes care of himself. He eats well. He sleeps. He has fun. Pete smiles easily. He's a pleaser. I said, Pete, you got to say no every once in a while. He wants to be everything to everybody. And then one of the things I told him and Lindor, I just need you to go play first base and go play shortstop because, there's enough other things going on. But Pete's going to try to bring whatever they want him to bring. You got that contract. I've talked to Pete a couple times. You got that contract for a reason. You don't need to all of a sudden be the spokesman and be the captain and be the whatever. Just go play first base like you play it, and that's enough. I told Pete, you're going to love Baltimore. They're going to get you, and you're going to get the essence of the fan base. And it's going to be a really good marriage. Both these guys fit Baltimore really well.
And I think what Pete has done well so far, and Buck, you always did, and this is the little things. When you acknowledge the city and the community, the fan base, about how excited you are and what you want to build here, goes a long way. And Pete, from the jump here, talked about how excited he was for the opportunity. But you are right. At the end of the day, you don't need to go out there and prove – and to prove sane anymore that, you know what, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. No. You can go and prove it just by going swinging the bat and doing what you've done the last X amount of years. You've been one of the most prolific offensive players.
Yeah, Pete and Chris both. Neither one have the disease of me. It's not about them. You see Chris go in the bullpen. Pete, Pete, I need you. Pete's got a big heart. He's got a lot of common sense. But he likes people. He likes baseball players. I've never had either one of those guys come in the locker room in a bad mood and say, "Hey, what's wrong with Pete today? What's wrong with Chris?" You kind of put them over in a corner. It's about mining for nuggets. You got these 26 stones you're looking for. You take the rocks and you throw them out, and then you put the nuggets over here. Well, Pete and Chris are part of that nugget base, and they'll have a lot of fun. They'll have their ups and downs. They won't be perfect, but you can trust them, guys. You can trust them. That's what you're looking for.
That is exactly what I think Baltimore is looking for. And, and as they get comfortable, right, and they can do that, their natural presence can allow their other players to get more comfortable. I'd like to think of that because I saw his comment in here. So Gavin Sheets, Buck, and I are very close out there in San Diego. Gavin's a little bit mad at me because I only find highlights when new pitchers come to Baltimore where I swear it's only at bats versus Gavin. So I found the one of Chris Bassitt, and I'm like, wow, there's only one at bat that Chris Bassitt has on tape in all of baseball, and it's Gavin striking out after taking a 3-0 heater down the dish, and then there's a 3-1 curveball. Buck, you'll actually, I know ABS is going to this, but I know your answer, but indulge me here, okay? You get a 3-1 curveball called on the corner, it's borderline, and you have a pretty good idea. So if they throw that pitch in the same spot again and you just got rung up on that, are you leaving the bat on your shoulder if you know you could call that? Yeah. No,
I'm hanging out some draft. Okay.
Yeah, so Gavin, if you're listening to that still, hey buddy, let's get the bat off the shoulder here.
Hey,
I got to go visit him in Arizona, but he had a great start out there.
Let me ask you guys a question. Have you noticed how many teams are surprised by injuries in the spring? Like, what have you been doing in the offseason? Do you communicate? We used to have everybody would get 5 or 6 guys, and you would call them once a week and just check in. And now these guys come to camp, and all of a sudden, hey, by the way, I'm hurt. Really? You think the Mets would have liked to know before they traded Osuna that Lindor was going to have surgery? I mean, I can tell you what the owner in Baltimore and the owner in New York I had would have done with the medical staff. He would have, oh my God, what are you doing?
I'm sure there's, and injuries, I got to talk to you about that here in a second, Buck, because from your perspective, and I know you have a strong opinion on the pitching side, and I want to get to bullpen because I think this is the piece where I know you value that. But let's start with this part because it's camp and spring trainings. At once upon a time, you were a first-year manager, right? So Albernez, he's come out and said in Baltimore, I feel like Stephen Vogt there, I've seen so many guys like Voter and other, managers run their camps. And I've done it. I've seen it. Now I'm the one that has to be the face, but I feel comfortable. In your mind, first time managing, new ball club, what were things that went through your mind there as you were trying to get acclimated for this new – you can be around, but it is a new opportunity?
Well, one, you had to be yourself, okay? The thing about baseball, we play so many games, we're around each other so much, players sniff out a phony in a heartbeat, and what you say, they will remember it. And I think it's not so much – we used to talk about let's don't do this till we get it right. Let's do this till we can't get it wrong. There's a big difference. And you don't need to always – more is not always better either. And you're not going to ingratiate yourself by letting them off the field after an hour. You should have purpose to everything you do and welcome questions. Say, here's why we're doing this. It kills me, guys, when I see the first week of regular season. Because all you're doing is you're rehearsing a Broadway play in spring training. You're rehearsing your lines. You're getting ready for the curtain to go up. You're rehearsing rundowns and cutoffs and relays and pickoffs and pop fly calls and priorities. You're going through all this stuff. So when the curtain opens, the show's on. And, you know how to work when the teleprompter breaks. But I see guys first game of the season not run a rundown properly. And I go, what were you doing down in wherever for a month and a half. What were you doing?
Yeah.
You know, and I just think to have purpose and don't just try to jack them around with a lot of useless stuff. Everything should have a purpose and be part of the process that gets to the end game. And you want to have such a confidence with your team when you come out of spring training. Listen, I don't know what's going to happen, if Chris Bassitt's going to pitch well tonight or not, but whatever. But we're prepared for everything that's going to come our way, because the teleprompter will break and it will get off script, and your backbone of your fundamentals will play out over the long haul. And I think he'll do that. I mean, he's been around a lot of good baseball situations, and I don't know him that well, but I like what I see. And hey, I've been that guy too. I was 35 managing the Yankees, and everybody thought I, was too young. Probably was, but I had a 1-year contract, so I got after it. $175,000 to manage the Yankees.
Does it what was your emotions during that first year? I got to ask.
Here's the deal. I had the press conference. They said, what do you think about a 1-year deal? I said, hey, I got a 1-year contract, so I'm on a 1-year plan. I'm getting after it every day, guys, and I'm going to see where it takes me. But this game's not for the timid or weak of knees or no backbone. I'm getting after it. I'm not going to look back and say I wish I'd have done this. And I surrounded myself with a lot of veteran people.
Yeah.
I had Don Mattingly in my corner. I had Clete Boyer and Frank Howard and Willie Randolph and Ron Guidry and Whitey Ford and Camp. I made sure I brought people there that knew what I didn't know. You got to know what you know and know what you don't know. And it's okay. Like catching. Every time this day, if I see a good catch instructor, I'm getting in his back pocket because I want to learn something about catching. And I want to make sure they're not laying down on their knee, not being able to catch a ball in the dirt on the other side. Don't get me started.
Well, I'm sure I could get you going with that. Yeah. I'm well aware.
Have you ever noticed how many wild pitches are opposite the knee down because they don't have spikes in the ground? They can't push that way.
I can see that bothers you.
Well, no, it's just common. We did the percentages analytically of balls that go the backstop opposite of the knee down. Anyway.
Hey, I know you have a very strong opinion on this because I agree with you. But one thing we've talked about with I'm going to use that line now, teleprompter is going to break. I think that's genius. That's another one of your Buckisms. Add that to the list, write that down. But it's true. The season, things will go wrong. And when I talked about with the Dodgers last year was an example, and as much as talent that they've had, they also had 15 starting pitchers throughout the course of the season. 15 different starting pitchers. They had to adjust. And Dave Roberts, I tell people, you can say they got Ohtani, they got Mookie, they got Freddie, they got all those guys, but you got to be able to manage the staff that you have, especially on the pitching side, and you got to find a way to make it work. You've always talked to me about pitching injuries. They're going to happen. But you always think that one of the priorities as a manager is managing your bullpen. And for the Orioles, I look at this case, at least for this is one team, they have maybe 7 or 8 quality arms that could start this year. And I know people are a little bit worried about the bullpen side, but can you explain to me why managing your bullpen as a manager is so important for the longevity of the season, but also the importance of what you're trying to accomplish in a year?
Well, there's such a thing as managers that play a good hand well. Like, I think Dave Roberts does a great job of playing a good hand well. Joe Torre did a great job of managing a good hand well. That's hard to do sometimes when you've got a talented team, but you got to keep it focused. But a good bullpen and management of a bullpen allows a team to have a great mentality and morale because you know how much is enough. When teams are constantly going, well, I wonder if that's going to be enough runs tonight. I wonder what's going to happen after the 6th inning or 7th inning. And having that, we got to the point in Baltimore where the phone didn't even have to ring in the bullpen. Guys knew who was going to pitch when. But there are no roles if your starters are leaving after the 2nd inning 2 or 3 days in a row. Okay, one of our assets were the long relievers we had. T.J. McFarland and some other guys that would come in and keep the pieces intact for the game that we could win. And putting together the dynamic of a good bullpen it shouldn't cost you an arm and a leg either. And people in the minor leagues, that's how we discovered Zach Britton as a reliever, how Jim Johnson, they're both failed starters, so to speak. But, Brad Brock, Darren O'Day, the late Brian Mattis, Michael Gibbons, we started that out back when they were in the minor leagues. They were 6-year free agents. But they were a piece that fit what we needed, and, we didn't need somebody to go 9 innings. We needed Chris Tillman and these guys to go 6 innings and give us a chance to get 9 outs before they could score. And we were pretty good at that. But that came through a lot of trial and error, and keeping them healthy. Rip, I don't think guys get to go outside and take BP as much, but I would always walk around and talk to the 7 guys in the bullpen. That's what I would do. And I'd also talk to guys that weren't playing that night. Those 4 or 5 guys who were on the bench. But talking to bullpen guys about what worked and what didn't work for them, the dry humps kill them. So, we had 3 calls. We had a red, basically get the ball, get your glove, get the catcher, get on the mound, but don't throw. And then we had a yellow, which meant you started throwing whatever. Then we had a green light, which meant you're coming in the game. You can't go hit that adrenaline button all the time. I mean, managing a bullpen, if I walked in a ballpark and wanted to watch one thing that told me whether a manager knew what he was doing, I'd watch his bullpen usage. Not necessarily getting in the game and who he uses, but the ups and downs down there. I look down, there's a left and right-hander up in the 2nd inning. Are you kidding me? What? You don't already know what that's supposed to be? That's when I'd go check. He doesn't know what he's doing in the bullpen.
Hey, Buck, what's the value then of having a defined role for a guy?
Your role is to get people out, but the defined role doesn't happen unless your starters are getting deep. Hey, I know you're supposed to pitch 8th inning. We need you to pitch in the 6th tonight. Okay. Mm-hmm. They'll tell you sometimes your closer should pitch in the 8th inning, but it's all there's, I see these field coordinator coaches they've got now, these 13, 14 coaches. Well, they need a field coordinator, FEEL. Like just having a feel for what, things change from day to day. Those things about be careful about telling truths that hurt innocent people. There's certain things that in the clubhouse that you can't let the whole world know that go into your decisions every day. But the role for a bullpen, you can say to them, in a perfect world, this is what we think you will do well for us, and this is how I'd like to use you. But that role would change. But we would give them a heads up when that role had changed that night. Hey, guy, I don't know if you know it or not, but I didn't want to be sending pitchers out. Every time they threw 3 innings in the relief, sending a guy out is tough on the morale of a bullpen and a unit. So we would just say, hey, somebody else is going to have to take the bullets because we don't want to send him out and have to wait 10 or 12 days to get him back.
Right. I think this to wrap up this conversation, Buck, Zach, we've talked about trying to keep guys healthy is 1, and 2, about, that's the whole analytics of how deep you let your starters go in games. And Zach, I think that was kind of the question you wanted to ask Buck.
Yeah, Buck, just, one, as it comes with starters and managing the bullpen, having guys that can, even if it's not going well, just we've talked about with Chris Bassitt, can give you 6, 7 innings to maybe reset the bullpen. How important is it for you to know, and in situations of, hey, bullpen's pretty beat up right now, how often maybe did you tell a starter, hey, we need 6 out of you almost no matter what today?
Never, probably never. I would never put that on their back. That if we're not prepared, your job as a manager, like when I would say, okay, this guy, and before the game, when I'd sit down with the pitching coach and bullpen coach, you go, okay, this guy breaks his arm with the second pitch. What are we doing? If you don't have that answer before you go to bed the night before, you haven't done your job. And it should be seamless if something like that comes up. But I would never go to a pitcher and say, hey, you got to give us 6. I'm going to leave you out there to die. That's a horrible mindset for a guy to be in going out there to pitch. And guess what? Those guys in the other dugout are pretty good too. How do you know when to take a pitcher out of the game? Well, if there's a fight at the back rack over in their dugout, I'm probably going to take him out. But there are times, I can remember Chris coming in and goes, I got it. Leave me out there. I got this. But, I don't ever put that onus on their back. It's not their job. It's not like it's these managers that go out and go, hey, You want to walk him or do you want to go after him? That's not his job. That's your job. You know, don't put that onus on him. You go get him or put him on. But don't ask me what I want to do because I'll face everybody. You don't put players in that position. It's not fair to them.
Yeah, and then real fast, quick follow-up. So with communication you just talked about, were there ever times where maybe before an inning did you have communication with a pitcher going out there and being like, hey, what was the conversation like of getting that feel of, okay, how much do you really have left in you? Because they're probably going to tell you a little bit more than they actually have because of the competitiveness.
Yeah, you got some guys that you can see them kind of stand up so they can see into the bullpen if you got anybody ready. Those guys are ready to come out of the game. I'll tell you, Max Scherzer, everybody told me, man, he's going to be tough to manage. Max was just the opposite. I told him, I said, Max, here's the deal. When you come off the mound and I stick my hand up there, you shake it. And then if you want to go off and whatever about coming out of the game, let's go up the runway. But Max was great. He would communicate. He'd go, hey, I got 2 hitters left. I'm getting there. Watch me. If I pop my glove, last hitter, have somebody ready for the 3rd hitter. I mean, it was easy with him. And we had a few moments where I said, okay, that's it. You're done. He goes, no, I go, let's go up the runway. And Max would voice his opinion. He was always competitive. But he always looked at things through a clear prism. You know, he didn't try to act like a tough guy and this and that, whatever. But there were times when he'd go, I'm good. It may not look good, but I'm good. Keep it going. And he also knew when the bullpen needed a blow. I didn't have to tell him. But guys like Max are few and not far between, but they're not that plentiful. Every guy's a little different. Some guy you gotta not believe what he's telling you. Some guys, quite frankly, can't believe you still left them in the game. They had a good outing and they want to get out of there. Now, you don't voice that. You don't tell anybody about it, but you got to know your pitchers. Once again, you got to have a feel, FEEL.
Yeah. We need a feel coordinator is what you're saying. Get a little feel. Hey, Buck, to wrap it up, what do you got going on? And maybe one, do you have any moment of all the years of spring training that moment that you had fun with?
Oh, I'm going to say involved as much as I kind of want to. I've had a few people kicking the tires. We'll see where everything goes. But, I used to love every year we would go to a movie theater and we put together this 20-minute tape. Instead of, you remember how awful spring training was the first day when you had to stand in front of your locker and have the doctors and the trainers and the traveling secretary and everybody that give all these lists. And all you want to do is get on the field. So we used to go do all that the night before at the theater. But I miss the talent show. We would have a talent show every year. Not necessarily I didn't make people do it. It wasn't a rookie hazing. If a new player came in, but we always had 15 or so guys that would do the talent show. And we'd let the veteran players be the judge. Rip, it was priceless. Was priceless. And I'd make everybody check their cell phone at the door. And there was no filming or somebody might get embarrassed. I mean, Ryan Flaherty brought these 2 monkeys that threw batting practice to each other. Damnest thing I ever saw.
That's insane.
I got in trouble. I got fined by the health department and somebody else. Oh, animal cruelty got in my shorts about, that was an easy fine to play though. I saw guys do things that I went, I can't believe he's that talented. I mean, there was a couple of guys made the club by their talent. I said, you know what? If they've got the guts to get up in front of all their peers and do that, that's good enough for me. Those are some great, and we did it right. We had a stage, good sound system, and guys looked forward to it. They got in there early and got a seat, and, we did it on a night game and early in the afternoon, and it was special. And we wouldn't let anybody else except the team in there, so these guys could really drop their air. I was very protective of the mode of privacy, like travel or the locker room. The first thing I do in every place is get everybody out of the locker room except the players. The only thing in the locker room are those 26 players. Now they got 50 people in there. Where can the guys drop their hair and be themselves? Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, well, I think also that's why when people want to showcase themselves more of who they are and how they are, they feel like that they're on constantly. So I get it. I always try to tell the guys now, I'm like, hey, you come on here. We've had players on in the past. Hey, we want to shoot the shit. We want to talk ball, but also this should be a safe space to just talk. Yeah. And I know that's the hard part in today's day and age of you don't feel that you can just.
Oh, it's a lot. It's an interview room nowadays. But I got it. They're needed and everything. I also miss the Clubby Olympics. You ever seen the Clubby Olympics?
I don't know if I ever watched or saw one myself.
They're special. They put a bunch of money in the kitty, and all the clubbies and all the guys work kids and everybody working in the locker room. They have these Olympic events. Yeah, it could be something like an egg toss. It could be a water balloon. It gets pretty involved, but it is some kind of entertaining. And these guys make a lot of money, and it's special. Okay. Yes,
that's incredible. Well, hey, Buck, I appreciate you taking time. Be careful shoveling snow if you still got to. All right.
I do it in shifts now. I don't go too fast. Every time I hear about people in snow, so I got to be careful at my age.
Yeah, please. I don't need to get a call from you next time to tell me about another player or something else on your mind, but then you go, well, I messed up my back shoveling, and then you tell me about what happened during spring training, auditions or the talent show, right?
Yeah, but I tell you guys, you'll have a lot of fun with Chris and Pete. Good additions.
Cool. Well, hey, Buck, I appreciate you. Thank you, and I'll check in with you soon.
All right. God bless you. I'll take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Buck Showalter, everybody.